Hello and welcome. I'm so happy to be with you, Amy Elizabeth from Aligned by Design, the woman and the legend.
Oh, Maya, I'm so happy to be here. I love you and adore you, and I can't wait for a conversation. Thank you for having me.
This is amazing. So, Amy, I called you in to be a guest in this podcast, a guest of honor, I would even say, because there are several things we can get people inspired and hopefully even move when we have you as a model. Someone who took her life by her hands and into her heart and moved from being, let's say, in my eyes, I would say, moved on from being an outcome of life to be the generator of her life, to be the owner of her life and really design her life in a way that matches what she feels and what she sees for herself and even beyond. I'm assuming it was even beyond what you have seen for yourself.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's beautiful. Thank you.
this is how it looks, because everyone could be just living their life according to consensus and cultural projections, and one day decide to shift it all and take full ownership, right?
Mhm. Yeah, completely. And so many people don't know that it's available, and that literally was me. I didn't know. I didn't know any different.
So you were a teacher in a normal
Yes.
school.
Yep,
Tell
school
us.
teacher. So I just had your very predictable life, as you said, very conditioned life. Went to school, went to teachers college, got a job right away, teaching, went right into full on career pretty young. I think I was like 23, 24 when I actually fully started full-time teaching. And then I taught for about just under 10 years before I took this leap. During that time, I got married, bought a house, I got married, I had kids. I had two kids before I started this entire journey. And then throughout this entire journey, as the shift happens, I got divorced. I had a third baby. I got divorced. I started this career and entirely changed my life, literally night and day.
Yes. So what was this move that happened for you? What was your calling to really expand the perception of what is possible, not only in vision, but really in hands-on? What was the
Yeah,
move, the
there
internal move?
there was quite a few small moves before any big move. And I think a lot of people forget that part of the picture. There was a lot of internal small moves before any big moves where anyone would actually notice. As simple as one of my best friends while I was teaching, she was like, "What would you be if you weren't a teacher?" And I was like, I never actually thought about that. So it was like the little drop ins, the little plugs, the little, oh, again, open your mind. There's more than this. And I think you would be really good at being a broadcaster, being on TV, being seen, all of these things. And I was like, whoa, that would be cool. But how would that ever happen? So that was one plug, one drop. And then I was on maternity leave with my second daughter. I saw there was a life coach in town. I had no idea what that meant. I had been doing like a lot of gratitude practices, a lot of meditation, and I was just like, I just feel this inner calling. So, for those that don't know, I am a splenic projector. So, this was definitely my spleen having a splenic hit of go here. So, I signed up with her, again, having no idea what I was getting into and a lot of unraveling around conditioning that I didn't really even understand before it came through during our time. And I was like, oh, I could change my life. I could be an entrepreneur. I could do something different. So, again, these internal ideas and expansion with the action of movement where it didn't really make sense or I didn't really know what the outcome was going to be. And then from there, I hired as our dear friend, beloved Jack, I hired Jack and Rob as business coaches. I didn't have a business. I was a full-time teacher on maternity leave. Like I did not have the money. I did not have a business. I did not have a plan. I just had an internal calling where you're supposed to go here. You're supposed to do this. During our business time together, coaching together, I didn't form a business, but I did get online. So I started going online and just talking about what I was interested in. So again, a lot of like internal pulls, internal feelings, internal movements, and then external movements. So I would take action on those things. Again, not looking at the bigger picture of what's this going to turn into or where am I going? Just I know I need to do this. So I went back to teaching after that. I actually ended up getting some clients during the summer, my summer off. And then I was like, whoa, this is actually happening. Like it was just this momentum of just keep going, don't overthink, don't look into the future, continue to do what feels right. And then it got to a point where it was like, but wait, what feels wrong? What feels misaligned? What feels off? And that was teaching. And there was a huge moment in a 3-month period where I was like, I can't do this anymore because I'm so misaligned as a teacher. But I didn't have that courage. I didn't have that like internal just go for it. There was a lot of back and forth internally because I had the 2 kids at the time. I was doing a lot of parenting by myself. I was working full time and then I was doing my business at night. So understanding myself, I knew that there was misalignment. And it was really starting to show up in my health, in just like little processes during my day of like overwhelm, central nervous system. But I knew when I was like, okay, this is going to be short-term misalignment for a long-term gain, but I didn't know what that gain was yet. I didn't I didn't have the visualization of, oh, you're just going to be a full-time entrepreneur and you're going to leave teaching. It was like a lot of, I can't do it. I can't do it. How am I going to do it? This doesn't make sense. That's crazy. So all of that talk until finally there was a push from God that was just like, you're out. And essentially found out I was pregnant with my third. My ex-husband, he was really going downhill. There was a lot of challenges that were going on during that time. I was going into school. I was having a lot of anxiety, a lot of feelings of just panic. When I was like, this is my push from God because I need to take care of myself for my kids and my baby. I'm going to take a leave from teaching and I'm going to go pursue this full time. So it was like it to the point where I knew I couldn't anymore. And that was really my push. And that moment on, everything changed in my life. And I was completely devoted to building a business and a life by my design as a projector. And that was the primary focus. Like, be in alignment, build a business from alignment, make sure your business is working for you so that you can have the space with your kids, so that you can show up in all of the ways you want to. And really, I allowed myself to continue to build that way. And here we are today. It literally was, I am designing this.
There's so many things I want to ask and go deeper. But for the audience, the people who do not know this amazing story fully, when you say, and here we are today, where are we today?
Yes, here we are today. Fast forward. My business was created in 2019. I launched a podcast when literally my son was 2 weeks old. So I had my 2 girls and then I had my son. I grew my business with him being a newborn baby to 40K, 50K, 60K, 80K months. When my divorce happened or my ex left, we dropped to under 10K months. That year of 2020 and the lower than 10K month, I created my first $1 million month. I had 6-figure cash months, growing into $1 million year. From there, I've grown that millions to multi-millions, and yeah, literally have the brand Aligned by Design. I have Amy Elizabeth, my personal page. Our brands together have made millions and millions of dollars, and I have impacted so many people's lives, changed lives, helped create alignment in people's lives. My own personal life, I now have a partner. We have 5 kids in a blended family. I've moved. Literally, I at some point I'm just like, oh, this is what it is, right? I'm just like, and here we are. But I'm like, oh my gosh, so many things. It's crazy. I've just grown so rapidly as a business owner, as a woman, as a mother, as a leader, and really completely unleashed everything. And from there, full abundance continues to show up in my life.
If I would need to summarize it, it's like I'm living as my higher self.
Completely.
I'm living as my higher self. This is
and I
so
feel like
beautiful.
I'm just getting started, which is the best part. I feel like I'm like just getting started.
It's the truth. It's just the beginning, no? It cannot be the end. It's just the beginning. We're speaking about 3 years, right?
4 years, yeah, four and a bit.
Excuse me. Yeah, but if we have this conversation again in 10 years, if we have this conversation again in 20 years, so there are 2 things that I stood up when you were speaking, and I want us to dive a little deeper in it. One is If you can elaborate and share your vision and wisdom of what made you, on one hand, say yes, because you were saying yes to that and that, there were several things that you said yes to, and there was still the hold of the conditioning, where you said, okay, finally I got the push of God, which is amazing. Because in some way, the way that I listen to it is I have done all that I could, all that was in my hand, and then I got the final coin coming in and pushing it almost as a gift, almost like a good karma. Oh, wow, you've done so much work on yourself. Okay, let me give you that little thing. But inside of you, and for the listeners who are still in transitions in whatever area in their life, can you share more light on your inner process there?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking back, what happens, I think, is that we want that push to be in the way we want it to be. We want it to look good. We want it to feel good. We want to be like, of course, this is what the gift is. But what will happen is those gifts or those pushes will show up in ways that a lot of people don't open up because it doesn't look the way that they want it to look. It doesn't feel the way that they want it to feel. But in fact, it is the gift. And that opportunity for me, again, experiencing like really intense anxiety, having my ex be in this position that was like a nightmare. Like from the outside, everything looked wrong. Everything would have looked like, no, this isn't the move you make now. Nothing is safe. Nothing is secure. Nothing makes sense. The safest thing would be to stay. So this box came in a way where I was like, I have to unwrap this and look at this through a different lens and perspective. And that's really what I did. I was like, if this is happening for me right now, if everything I want, which is that freedom to not be rushing, not feel that stress, and create the life that I want, this is that opportunity. But I had to really unpack that from my own conditioned state because all I heard was safety and security. And it's too chaotic right now. It's not the time. This doesn't make sense. Why would you do it now? So, unpacking that, I had to look at this gift is coming right now at literally the perfect timing. And although it doesn't make sense to anybody else, and this is really the human logical form where most people get stuck because everybody else's, it doesn't make sense. I had to look at it won't make sense to anybody else, but it makes perfect sense to me. And that's where I really had to trust that internal guidance and that internal authority to be like, this is the move. And if I would have hushed that, I would have completely regretted as things unfolded, right? We never know in hindsight, but I would have forever regretted that. So the
So
internal
true.
pull, when we feel it so intensely, our mind wants to rationalize it, but it will never make sense. And this is where you hear so many stories. I just jumped, I just went for it. So it's allowing that internal guidance and authority of your system to for you to trust that. And you have to turn off the brain and you have to turn off the outside sources and really allow yourself to be empowered and trust yourself enough to move. And then you have to continue to trust the moves, right? Because
Yes.
again, a lot of people jump and then they're like, oh, what did I do? You have to keep going with that trust.
Yes. And it still will have moments, if not eras, that it wouldn't make sense. Still.
Completely. A lot. And this is where
Yeah.
it's like you just have to go back to that feeling. You have to go back to that trust and you have to align your actions that match that, not what matches what's showing up inside of your world right now, because those
Mm.
are all, again, just experiences where we can see it in one logical way or one conditioned way, or we can see it in the way that we saw it. We chose the perspective and the lens to see it through. You have to hold that lens.
Yeah. So before we go deeper in that, because this is an amazing conversation, which I feel that you're a perfect model to, like, those who are listening can listen to your words or can just drink the download out of your energy field. But we're still going to provide a little bit of more information that maybe will support, because you are a master in human design and you know that by heart. At that time, were you aware of authorities of human design? Were you aware of your own authority?
Oh yes, absolutely. So this is the part where I really started to see what was misaligned in my life. So I had been studying human design, really getting in tune with my own splenic authority as a projector, as a 5/1, all of these things. And I through that lens, I was like, oh, that's what's happening right now. Oh, these are projections. Oh, these are moments of so much fear. The spleen is survival. So it's like fight or flight. It's what's keeping you safe. So, in the logical sense, safety would be the thing dangling in front of your face that is a pension and health insurance and all of these things, retirement, right? So, it's like dangling there. That sounds like safety in the external source, but internally, that didn't feel safe to my freedom. That didn't feel safe to my spirit. That didn't feel safe to my vision and what I really actually wanted in life. So knowing and understanding my spleen, I was able to rationalize and separate those to be like, oh, this is the logical survival that I would be safe in. And this is like my soul's safety.
And can we have a little gift here to scan the different authorities? One of the things that I love, and those who listen and do not follow Amy Elizabeth on Instagram, go and follow if you're interested in human design, because the posts there are so good. So good. One of the things that I love in your post is that from time to time you bring posts that brings an aspect of authority or different lines that it's like, oh, I was not even thinking about it like that. So can we do a little gift and go through the different authorities? And those who knows their authority will find themselves there, and those who would not will search for their authority. And like you've done with the splenic, saying, so the one in the splenic, the part of you would be the part who is connected to survival, that will deem your ability to listen to your authority. So can we go to the rest of the authorities, their strength, and what might deem? What a gift.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, we have your emotional authority, which is the biggest authority, and it actually overrides the other authorities. So it's the most complex, it's the most intense, and essentially what's happening for our emotional authorities is that you're constantly riding emotional waves. So you have emotional highs and you have what we call emotional lows, and then we have a point in the middle where you're at a ground zero. For emotional authorities, you're not meant to make decisions in the moment, like I was talking about the spleen. So you're actually meant to ride these emotions. And this is just a chemical difference between those that are emotional authorities and those that aren't. Okay. So we can't do anything to change that. So the best thing that emotional authorities can do is learn what their waves are and actually move with the emotion instead of against it. So if somebody was in a low and having like just wake up, and it's for no reason, right? We're going to have human emotions. It gets a little complex. You're going to have human emotions that are obviously for a reason. And we have just your waves that are occurring all the time. So if somebody was in a low, so a lower emotion, feeling sad, feeling just down, feeling like emotions, waves of emotions, crying, things like that, your fears, yeah, anger, any of those things, they're not going to make a decision in the moment because it would be based off of that wave. So the best thing for them is to actually grab those, go support themselves in moving through the wave because they will pass it. And then it's when they come to the middle ground where there's no highs or lows, as middle ground as possible, that's when they make a decision. And it will only feel 80% certain, 75, 80% certain for an emotional authority because they've passed through so many different emotions as a decision comes in. And this is only for big decisions, right? This isn't for like your everyday, do I want to go for a walk or not? This is for big decisions in life, big changes. Okay. So decisions come in, we have to pull back. We say 24 hours, pull back just so you can ride the waves and then come to that place of certainty, lean into the decision. And then you're going to go off your next authority, which is going to come next and then make the decision. But we're not making ever, just to clarify, we're never ever for all of these authorities making decisions from the logical sense, from the human form, from our understanding of things. We're going through our own processes. So next in line is the sacral. Sacral is right in the middle of your chart, right at the stomach area. And this is a yes or a no. You're going to have a visceral body feeling of yes, or a drop of, oftentimes it will come through vocally
I'm
too, where
sacral. This is why I'm laughing.
it's intense. It can
When
be
it's
really
no, it's
intense.
no.
Yeah, when it's a no, it's a no. And there's no how or again explanation that will make sense to other people. It's just you're responding all the time. So for you guys, you are making decisions all the time based on that sacral. So emotional authority, I said you don't all the time. It's only for big ones. But for sacrals, it's all the time. It is. Yeah, it looks pretty outside. Let's go for a walk. It's somebody has coffee. I smell coffee. I want coffee. So there's constant movement going on, and you're literally responding to what's in front of you, what all of your senses all the time. So you're responding. Now, it's really important for sacrals to honor the yes and the no. If they don't, they will go into a state of frustration. Sacrals will only be manifesting generators or generators. So for this, if you say yes to the yeses, your life force grows. So your magnetism grows, your opportunity to pull in more meeting with people, gifts, even the kind of next drop to where you're supposed to go in life. These opportunities come into you the more that you actually respect and honor the yeses and nos. If you say yes when it's a no, you're literally going to be in frustration and dim all of that down. You're going to shut it down. You're going to be so frustrated, and things get a lot more difficult for you because instead of taking your direct path of it's a yes, it's a no, it's a yes, it's a no, all of a sudden you're like, it's a no, but I said yes. So now you're taking the long way around. And it's going to take you a while to get back on your path. So you've just created a lot of interference and a lot of hurdles to be jumping over when you don't respect the yeses or nos. And it's difficult for you guys because, again, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to you often in the moment. It doesn't make sense to other people. It's happening fast. It's happening intensely. And you make these really big moves off of it. Sacrals say yes to the yeses and nos to the nos. And if you don't know, you may also not know. And you may also be like, I don't have a yes or a no. That means just stay put. Don't force yourself to one of those sides. You just need more interaction with the opportunity. That's all.
And I will add
Do
as
you
a
have anything to
sacral.
say? Yeah.
Yes, I would add this as a sacral. I feel many times people are asking, how do I build self-confidence? How do I build self-trust? You listen inside and follow.
Exactly. And it has to come from that. It has to come from that constant checking in, tapping in inside. And again, you're going to be so out of logical making sense. And that's what's going to trip most sacrals up is that doesn't make sense. Or how is that going to? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So then going on to spleen, which I just talked about for myself. Splenic are the hits. So we're also only going to have splenic decisions on bigger things or things that all of a sudden download to us. So we're also not responding like that sacral is. Okay, so the spleen will just hit out of the blue. It's a very intuitive voice, so it's very quiet. We really have to build trust with it. And it's like a little whisper that will pop in. And you're like, oh, what's that? You have to pay attention and you have to start to learn to trust that voice or that feeling or that download and allow yourself to move with that. And fear will be really big and intense. So splenics have to learn how to walk with fear is essentially their biggest challenge. Walking with fear is the spleen's biggest challenge.
Okay, so we were doing emotional, sacral, splenic.
So then moving into our next two, they're actually quite similar. So we have our ego authority, which is going to come from your heart. And then you have your G center authority, which operate in a very similar way. So these are much less common. If you have an ego authority, this is coming from your heart center, which is your willpower. So it's interesting because what an ego authority will sound is I want, right? It can sound very selfish to other people, which is why a lot of ego authorities have a really difficult time actually embodying and trusting because it can sound like, oh, I'm just being selfish, or other people will say, oh, you're just making decisions that are a benefit for you. The coolest thing about our ego authority is that it actually, when that person makes the decision that like I want or I need or this is what we're doing, this is what's best, it benefits the collective. So it's a collective authority, but sounds very individualized. It sounds very for me, but it's actually when it's for me, I know what's good for the collective. And when I act with it, it will support everybody else. It may not be immediate, but it's like the overflow of that then goes to everybody else. So it's so cool to be able to see that because it's really allowing that person to be like, no, this is right. This is the move. This is what I have to do. And then in turn, that feeling of selfishness actually turns into the exact opposite and it's benefiting everybody else. So it takes a lot of courage for somebody to be like, oh, I get this, because they'll also hear a lot, even how they make their decisions. A lot will come back on them and be like, you're just making decisions for you. You just do this for you. Like it's all about you, but really everybody else benefits. It just takes a minute to see that ripple effect. And then we have our G center, which is similar to, but they'll get a hit where this is where I go next. This is the next move. This is where I need to be. So it's a little bit different because, and sorry, this is coming from the self. So it can feel like I just continue on my path and this is where I go. And they'll get really stuck in the how. How does that make sense? How does that connect into where I want to go? But they really do have to trust the next move. So it's, I feel something. I know I need to be here. I know this is right for me. I know this is where I'm going. I know what this is where I'm headed. And it's like walking up the stairs towards their ultimate, towards the castle, right? They have to take all these steps to get there. And that's essentially what they're doing. But it could mean moving across the world. It could mean changing the structure of your business. It could mean bringing somebody into your team, letting go of somebody, right? It's all about, I know what the next move is essentially. And then we have our mental projectors. So for our mental ones, this is all about being in the head. And so for the heart, the G center, the self-projected, and then the mental, it's a lot of talking it out. So these also aren't in the moment decisions. These three get the most confused with making a logical decision and being convinced or conditioned from other people to make a move that looks like it makes sense or logically makes sense. So they'll all talk it out, but they're not looking to talk it out with somebody to have a discussion to be like, here's my chart, here's the pros and here's the cons. Let's write these down. Let's see what looks the best. It's actually just to get their answers out. So we call this a sounding board, right? So it would be like a person that is very indifferent to what you're doing, doesn't hold judgment, isn't looking to sway you to one side or another, but is going to be there so that you can talk and get your own answer. So for self-projected, it's all about, or sorry, for a mental, it's all about being in their head. So it's a lot of discussion. It's a lot of trying to figure things out. But when they talk it out, they actually get their answer. So there's so much going on. It's so much busyness that it's hard to actually go through the layers to be like, oh, here's the answer. So when they start to talk it out, it's supportive because it's like it flushes all of the gunk away, all of the distraction away. And it actually allows them to hear their answer. So that will be beneficial for the ego, these self-projected, coming from the G center, and then also the mental, the ones that are in their. And then we have our reflectors. So reflectors have their very own authority. So they're completely separate from everybody else. And they're most similar to the emotional. But they're supposed to be on like a 28-day cycle. So they're on this moon cycle. So what they're doing is they're spacing out. They don't have any centers defined within their charts. So they're actually absorbing so much from other people environmentally, in people's energy, with different identities, different concepts. They're taking a lot in. So they have to do a lot of fleshing out in order to come to a decision. So much like the emotional authority who needs to wait in order to have a moment of clarity because of their waves, reflectors don't experience the waves, but they experience a lot from other people. So they need more time and space to just separate and tap back into self. As they tap back into self, it doesn't need to be a 28-day or 30-day period before they actually make a decision. It's more about the clearing and the processing, the internal processing and allowing of self. And when they land on something, they're really certain. So it's about letting all of these things be released that they're holding on to or that they absorb from other people and be this cleansed system in order to make a decision.
This last one sounds so subtle. Like you really need to be super, super connected to yourself to be in that place where you can sense.
Absolutely. And they're only about 1% of the population. So again, we can see how easy it would be for them to be like, oh, I should do it this way. Or again, absorbing everybody else's energy because it's so rare, but it's so powerful and so incredible when they allow themselves to understand themselves and really go through this process. So much wisdom.
Yeah. It's so interesting because it's, for me, it's almost like I was aware of sacral, emotional, and spleen, which, and of course I've learned with you, so I know more exist. But even when I'm listening to it now and I have the moment to reflect on the people in my life, it's almost like I don't know those people who are ego, heart, mind, or how would you say the projector? What would be their authority?
Yeah. So from the self,
Okay,
the G
self.
center
Yeah,
one.
this is why it is so subtle. Okay.
Yeah. And those
Is
are the
is
rarer ones.
the
So
rare?
those are the
Okay.
less common ones and the most easily conditioned ones
Hmm.
because most of the population has emotional, sacral, or spleen. So of course, those ones are going to be like, oh, that's how we make it, or go into the logic of things and make very
Hmm.
rational, logistical decisions.
Yeah. So this is quite amazing. I'm listening to your sharing, and something comes to me about the time that I've officially changed my name. So I was in a journey for around 4 years where I couldn't echo with my original name in any case. But there was a moment where I've realized that I need to change my name, and around 4 years I was around that. And it didn't land, it didn't land, it didn't land. And then I got the letters. And after I got the letters, I got the wave of how it should sound. And then finally all came together. And once I knew it, I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And it took 1 month for my entire world, including my family members and dear friends and everyone, to call me by my name. So what I can say is that when the final name came, that was a sacral yes. It was like, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is the name. And then for the rest of it to happen, like, how would you describe that in human design?
It's so cool because even if we look at, so I'm looking at your own chart
Oh my God.
right now, I pulled it. So you have a direct path from sacral, it goes to your throat. You have your G center defined, which is like those next steps and the identity of self, and then your ajna. So when we look at this, the connection and the centers that you have, it's okay. The sacral was there. Obviously, you had a download of, ooh, this isn't right. So again, the misalignment, this doesn't feel right, specifically within your identity of self. So your G center, within that identity of self, you knew there needed to be a change. What's next? Obviously, then the process of waiting for it to be a yes. And then you vocalize that. You moved that yes to your throat center, utilized your defined throat center, spoke that out. Other people, again, now responding
Announced.
to your authority.
Yeah.
And then also you making sense of it and using that to create that it really became the next steps of your identity, really, in your journey and your process. So your own authority, your own internal energy system, you utilize that with full trust, moved it outside of self, so into the world with trust and authority, and others came in, and it just is now, right? Nobody would know any
Yeah.
different, which is the most incredible thing.
Yeah. It was almost like it was always there. It was always
Yes.
there. It was just revealed. But the reason I brought it is because what we started speaking before authority, which is, yes, so you listen to something inside of you that guide you, and now you have the people who are listening, you have this beautiful information and sensation because the energy really shifted when you were speaking about emotionals or sacral, etc. I could really feel it. So you have it, you have the download, and then there is this staying in it and staying, like I like the way that
Mm-hmm.
you call it, stay in power. What was it for
Yeah.
you?
Oh my
And
gosh.
still is for you?
I think one of the biggest things, and I always go back to, and it's literally so simple, but it's either I choose. So for projector, my alignment is success and my misalignment is bitterness. So things become so straightforward for me. It's either going to be I choose success or I misalign and I'm bitter. So what do I want to live in? Do I want to live in my bitterness for the rest of my life? Because that's what it will be if I choose to misalign. So staying in my power becomes these two options for me. And success doesn't always look like financial. It's personal success, it's freedom, it's happiness, it's family, it's all of those things. So it's I either choose one side or the other. And can I live with the bitterness? Can I live with me being bitter over a decision that was misaligned? And obviously there's going to be moments where we do that along our path because that's how we grow and learn and experience it. And big lessons come from that. But can I evolve that into success? And I think staying in my power, that became a really personal experience. And for a while, I really kept all of it very internal and I wouldn't share decisions. I would just go do because I was like, I know I don't want any outside influence. I know that I need to do this now and I need to do this for me and I need to do this. Otherwise, I will be convinced. And it was this, I knew I wasn't, let's say, strong enough where people would come in with their opinions and for me to be like, thanks for your opinion. Anyways, I'm going to do this. So I would have rather just go do the thing and then deal with opinions after because I've already done it. So it was really allowing, okay, how am I going to move with the most success for me? And I have to let myself do that. And that personal power really came from weighing out the options. Do I want bitter or do I want success? And again, for me, not for any tangible or circumstantial or conditioned form of it, like my own reality of it. Because at the
Yeah,
end of the day, it's my life, right?
yeah, it is such a beautiful expression of self-love. Like really
Mm-hmm.
putting yourself as a priority, which is the truth, because everything is being experienced through you any case. This
Mm-hmm.
is like such a gift to be able to take the external attention and put it all in, gather all your energy in and put it all as an internal attention and being so loyal to that.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I think in motherhood, this becomes very contradictory in a sense because ultimately we're taught, think about them, think about what's best for them. But really, as the mother, and at that time I was a single mom, like what's best for them is going to be what's best for me. And I can then overflow into them and experience them in a different way when I'm safe, when I'm supported, when I'm happy, when I'm fulfilled, when I'm grounded, when I'm emotionally intelligent, all of those things then ultimately support them in a way bigger way rather than being like, what's best for them is it could have been, it could have been like, what's best for them is moving in with my parents, but that wouldn't have been success for me. Right? That would have been like, oof, way too overwhelming. So, what's best for me is us staying here, me figuring it out, me moving forward, me going through this whole process. And then ultimately, my happiness, my groundedness, my nervous system, everything intact is best for them.
Yeah. I love to describe it as my highest good is the highest good of all. My highest good is the highest good of all because it cannot be different from that. It cannot be, it is impossible that something will be good for everyone. Like something in the cosmology will arrange itself that it would be good for everyone and it wouldn't be good for me. Like it is impossible. But there's still like a type of a thought form, like an educational thought form of sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Sacrifice your thoughts, sacrifice your feeling, sacrifice how you behave, sacrifice your time, which is such a separation attitude. Like you are completely not in, you don't feel belong. You're not together with people, with the people that you care for, and you definitely are not with yourself.
And
How
then
did you
it's, oh,
tell me?
I was just going to say, and then of course, so many people are frustrated, so many people are bitter, so many people are angry, of course.
Of course, exactly. And we can see these ripples of this sadness. Can you say one word as we coming to completion? What was the thing for you to liberate this idea that you need to sacrifice something for your power, for your joy, for your authority, for your standards? Like, how did you clear that away?
The first word that came in was refuse. I literally just refused. Like there was no way I could. And I don't know if that's, again, just the calling and something planted in me. I really did begin to see, it sounds weird, but I really began to see me as like a placement. I was placed for this reason. So it was like I
Oof.
really accepted the mission, and that was the refusal. It was like, I accept, I do, let's do this. And when I really grounded into that, it was like I refuse to do it any other way because I know that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. I echo with this so much. And of course, as I'm having conversation with people around spiritual calling, soul calling, following your heart, following your desire, following your passion, it keeps coming again that there is like an initiation period, a training period, and an execution period. And I hear that with you as well.
1,000,000%. I actually said over and over again that 2019 is when I left teaching. 2019 is when I started my business. 2019 is when I had my third baby, did the podcast, decided to leave teaching. Like that was 2019. I was still married at that time. 2020, my entire life changed like that. So I believe all of 2019 was my preparation. That was like, I had no idea what I was preparing for, but I was preparing for that. And it took my mindset, it took my energetics, it took the like tangible physical changes, it took the management of, oh, I can have another baby and continue working, no problem. It took courage, bravery, all of that was like experimented in kind of the safest circumstance. And then it was like, circumstances changed. Now you're ready to show up for it.
Yeah, but it is interesting because for me, looking at you and feeling your energy, your preparation period went until your second child. And then
Mhm.
initiation started.
Yes.
You were prepared all your life by understanding and learning and seeing complex modalities and learning how to explain modalities and how to implement modalities, although it was about letters and numbers or whatever you were teaching, but you were there in your mastery and you were also establishing loyalty, but it was an external loyalty. You just shifted the
Mhm.
arrow. Instead of that being outside, it started to go to the right direction, knowing who you are and what you are. I
Mhm.
feel that your preparation period was all your life until
That's
that point
beautiful.
where you said,
That's huge. So interesting to me because people don't look back on their lives to be like, oh, and now we're here. And now I'm ready to step up as they've done a lot of people discard that part of their life and
yeah,
don't
but you were
see the
born for it.
transferable. And everybody is for something, but they're not seeing the transferable. Oh, and now we go over here and now we create this because X, Y, and Z happened, or I did, or I learned, or I grew.
I agree. We are not allowing ourselves to take this, I wouldn't say we as everyone, but many people do not allow themselves to take this inner authority and take their life in their hands. And I'm so
Hmm.
happy that we had this moment to have this conversation and inspire not only as ideas, but into movement. So I wish to believe that someone, if not many, could hear a calling in this conversation. And I'm so happy that we gave that.
Thank you. Me
Oh,
too. Thank you, Maya.
I love you. It's such a pleasure to have this conversation with you and any conversation with you. And it's just a pleasure just to be in your presence. It's
Thank
just a
you. I feel the
pleasure to be in
exact
your presence.
Thank you. I feel the
Oh,
exact same. I had a chance to meet Homaya in person, and the energy from the love, the connection, the being, the intelligence in every form is just oozing out of you. So it's always a
oh.
pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So go follow Amy Elizabeth, or really copy the grids, as we say. Copy the grids. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to go even deeper in your world and together with you.
Thank you, Homaya.
Thank you, love. Oh.
Bye, guys.